Every morning, God, you are. Every midnight, God, you are. Every moment, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am, to you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know, it's you. God, you are. Every sunrise, God, you are. Every moon glow, God, you are. Every star shine, every inch of earth and sky, God, you are. Every springtime, God, you are. Every snowfall, God, you are. Every season, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am, to you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know, to you. 'Cause you are the very breath I breathe, and your perfect love created me. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am, to you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know, to you. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am, to you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know, to you. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am, to you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know, to you. Cha-cha-cha.
Gary's got it. Way to go, Gary.
People are beginning to get the cha-cha-cha. All right, that was great singing. Got you waking up here a little bit. We're going to settle in here and get our service started with a little bit of sacred love. You are sacred love, sacred love, is all that you are. You are sacred love, child, sacred love, is all that you are. You are sacred love, sacred love, is all that you are. You are sacred love, sacred love, is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. Want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. Want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are blessed peace, blessed peace is all that you are. You are blessed peace, God, blessed peace is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. Want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. Want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are deepest joy, deepest joy. You are
morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to everyone who's here, and as well as for those who are joining us online, to Unity Spiritual Center, where our mission is transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. My name is Karen Dunmore, and I am your platform assistant this morning. Please take a moment now to silence your cell phones. And before you do, check in and tell the world you are here and let them know they can tune into Unity Spiritual Center online. We want to begin our time together by sharing our opening affirmation. I will say it once and then ask you to repeat it with me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together, there is only one presence, one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. This is Unity's foundation principle: one presence, one power, one life living through and as each one of us. This morning, we will hear from Dr. Gary, who will be sharing Wake Up and Smell the Awareness. And that's the Sunday message, and Amber McKenzie will be leading the meditation. We are being blessed musically this morning by Sean and Tawny Wright. So stand up. Let's all stand up and sing our community song.
All right, you can stand up if you're able, that'd be great. We're going to do Swing Wide the Doors, too. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to learn the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of the heart and mind. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to learn the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of his heart and mind. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. Not understanding what I'm here for, and what this life's all about. When it's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, lending a hand. So swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart and mind. There's a voice that I've heard for years. I'm gonna keep it inside. Well, now it's coming loud and clear. I want a deeper life. A life about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about heart open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. Well, it's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, lending a hand. Come on, now, let's sing it out. So swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of his heart and mind. Swing wide the doors of his heart and mind. And yours too. Yeah.
Next time I see you, Good morning. Good morning. We have some announcements. I guess I'll wing it. No? Annual meeting today at 1 p.m. There'll be lunch benefiting the YOU after this service, and at 1 o'clock everybody comes back in here for the annual meeting.
Is there childcare?
And there's childcare available. It's not on the slide. Oh. Okay, Soul to Soul benefit dinner March 9th. And for those of you who are newer here, Soul to Soul is an organization that was established by Harriet Jacobson in 1993 when she provided shoes and socks to children at Crosswalk and Teen Shelter. Last year, Soul to Soul provided shoes and socks to 1,484 3 to 5-year-olds at the 29 Head Start and ECAP centers in the Spokane area. The Soul to Soul fundraiser is scheduled at our center on Saturday, March 9th, beginning at 5:30 with a social hour. The theme this year is Get Your Kicks on Route 66. And our own chef, Susan, will be preparing a sumptuous dinner buffet. Live performers will sing their renditions of songs from the 50s and 60s during the evening of fun, friendship, and delicious food. Get your tickets today out in the atrium for $30. Next, meditation class with Mary True in the chapel again in March at 6:30 in the evening on Wednesdays. Reminder, Islands of Insanity starts March. Whichever. Islands of Sanity starts March 2nd, which is this next Saturday. Sign up in the bookstore if you're interested in being a part of it, and it is this coming Saturday. Also, Reverend David's Still More A Course in Miracles Made Easy is going to be here again in March. Continues on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. The sign says 10:30, but it is 10 o'clock. And you don't have to have been in the class before to partake of this. Each one of his classes are individual on their own. So you're all welcome to come on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. And Kiss the Pig. Vote with your dollars for your favorite person. Gary's ahead, so, we don't want anybody else to feel left out. So, vote with your dollars.
Linda?
Yes.
So Danica came in the first service, and she was feeling bad that people hadn't put money in her slot. So I say we all contribute to Danica. Yeah.
Vote for Danica. There we go. Okay.
Danica.
So how many of you were here a month ago to hear Ryan Sawyer share his transformational story? Raise your hand. Well, you're in a treat today because Heidi Sawyer is going to be doing her transformational story right now. Please come forward.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you today. When we hold on to or resist healing the painful parts of our past, we unconsciously invite the same experiences again. I was really good at finding shiny new distractions. Shopping, redecorating, exercising, dieting were my escapes of choice. I used to go through waves of obsessing about my body and how I looked, and then my attention would shift over to my home and trying to find the perfect decor or some other project. But no matter what I changed, I was never satisfied. On the outside looking in, I seemed to have it all. A loving husband, 2 beautiful children, a new home, and a great figure. On the inside, my heart was closed off, I had low self-esteem, and I was taking for granted all that I had. I was so focused around how I thought the world needed to be for me to be okay that I couldn't even see that my marriage was falling apart. I had no idea that my husband was suffering in silence the lifelong battle of depression and anxiety. I was withdrawn from him, and he had found himself in an emotional affair with a supportive friend. I was devastated to discover that this pattern of infidelity from my prior marriage was repeating again. Perhaps there was still a lesson I needed to learn here. Could it be that the way I'd been living my life and my refusal to let go of the past was creating more of the same for me? One day, feeling drained and overwhelmed, I walked into a church alone. I heard the song playing, a song I'd never heard before, I Surrender. Without even thinking, I put my arms up into the air. I closed my eyes and I felt the music. Here I am, down on my knees again, surrendering all, surrendering all. I felt a release of tears and emotion flood over my body. As I was driving home from the church that day, I saw a graffitied sign that I had seen many times before, only this time it was painted over, and the words read, "You are loved." It was divine timing. This was the first time I truly felt that God was real and there was a presence in my life that was greater than myself. Ryan and I continued to struggle in our marriage, going to couples counseling, which only drove more distance and tension between us. Until one day we stood across the kitchen from each other, wondering if we had done everything we could to save our marriage and if it was even worth saving. We made an agreement that day. We were going to work on ourselves individually to heal and grow if our marriage would ever have a chance. I knew that meant I needed to learn to forgive, which would only be possible if I learned to love myself first. So, searching for answers, I started to read personal development books, and I quickly started to realize that this voice inside my head, this inner critic, and this person that was tearing me apart in front of the mirror was not actually me. I was the consciousness inside listening to this voice, this programming, and this false conditioning. And if I ever wanted to make a shift in my life, I had to stop running the same repetitive programs over and over again. So through the revelation that I am not my body and I am not my thoughts, I found freedom and I found truth. I found forgiveness for him and for myself. And today our marriage is stronger than ever because of what we've been through and not in spite of it. We found a deeper connection to God and to each other, which ultimately led us to find unity in this wonderful community here. I've learned many lessons along the way, but there are a few I'd like to highlight for you today. First, healing a relationship takes working on ourselves individually. It takes looking at the dark and shadowed parts of ourselves, those parts that we've been keeping busy trying to avoid. Placing the blame and playing the victim will only drive you deeper into the mud. If you truly want to make things work, you have to first take full responsibility for cleaning up your own side of the street. And second, if you're in a place in your life where you feel like you need to change everything on the outside to find happiness, just stop. Because no matter what you change or what you do, you will never truly shift until you change your ways of thinking and being. And finally, finding love and compassion for yourself is the path to freedom and forgiveness. Releasing the pride and the ego and understanding that we are all just human beings searching for love, happiness, and connection. If we choose to see those who have hurt us as a mirror onto our own unhealed parts, we will find compassion, forgiveness, strength, and love again like never before. Thank you.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and go. In the
Let us breathe in those beautiful words as we take a moment now to close our eyes and connect to that stillness within. Let us take this moment to release any past or future thoughts, any unfinished business, stress, or worry that followed us here today. Allow us to set that aside for now, just for now, as we focus on our breath and root down into this beautiful present moment. Take some time to feel your connection to the earth through the soles of your feet. And just imagine roots falling with the weight of gravity from the center of your feet, down through the floor, through the frozen ground, past the dirt, the rocks, the rubble, extending further down and connecting directly to the center of Mother Earth. Feel her connection and feel the support of your chair on your back and legs. Notice the rise and fall of your breath as the light of spirit moves deep into your heart. And now let us together create a field of heart coherence. Allow the spirit-filled breath to enter your heart space as we bring into our awareness something or someone that we deeply love and appreciate. This may be a dear friend, a family member, a loved one who has passed on, a treasured pet or beloved child, a fond memory. Just allow this feeling of deep appreciation to fill your heart with its warm embrace. Imagine it filling every cell of your body with gratitude, appreciation, and love. Allow this feeling to rise up and extend beyond our physical bodies. Imagine it overflowing from our hearts, filling this room and everyone in it, so that together we create a light field of coherence. A field so powerful it extends beyond this time and place, blanketing the entire planet with love and lighting up every heart along the way. Let us now take this connection even deeper as we enter the silence. Sweet, divine, loving Spirit, we give thanks for this field in which we have collectively brought forth, and that is carried with us now as we go forth into our world. And for this, we are so very thankful. And so it is. Amen.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. stillness of this moment, there is love, in the stillness of this moment, there is love, and I rest and trust and breathe and know, in the stillness of this moment, there is love.
All right. Okay, so wake up and smell the awareness. This is going to be a series of talks all about meditation. How many of you are practicing meditators? Raise your hand. A lot of people. So if you're not practicing in any formal meditation practice, I hope as an outcome of these talks that you'll consider meditation as integral to your spiritual journey. So Jane's right now on her way home. I just wanted to mention that she's in Boulder, Colorado, and just finishing up her 11 o'clock talk, probably about now. And she's on her way home. She was there presenting the Q process there at that ministry, and so she'll be back this afternoon. Anyway, so the idea of meditation is really a cornerstone in unity and New Thought. It's been a part of our theology and our practice. But meditation is such a broad and huge arena because there's so many approaches or methodologies with respect to meditation. And so I can't speak to it all, and I can't speak to all the complexities, the different practices, but I do want to focus on Dr. Joe Dispenza's approach to meditation practice and why it's so integral to anyone who's interested in transforming your life. As Heidi had expressed, this whole struggle of being able to really work your life from the inside out as opposed to from the outside in is really the effort that is the effort of transforming our life. We have to arrive at a place where we take ownership of how we're living our life. And if we're reacting to our life, guess what? Our reaction to life is our life. So however we're being with what we're having becomes our life. And so if we're not being with what we're having out of a place of empowerment, out of a place of knowing that we can decide how we're going to use what we're having, and if we don't know that, then we believe that what we're having is our reality, is our life. And it's important for us to know that our life experience is an effect of a creative process. And so we either deal with the effects of our life or we deal with the source or cause. And so that's where we're going in all this. And so for those of you who are involved in some form of meditation practice, you're really engaged in developing or activating a dimension of yourself that's immaterial, that has nothing to do with the outer. And so to begin to cultivate a relationship with a dimension of yourself that is neither here nor there, but everywhere, is an important thing to understand. And as we look at all of the great traditions, meditation has been integral to the mystical traditions, to the contemplative traditions, to the indigenous shamanic traditions. There is a depth of capacity that we can achieve when we spend the effort and energy in focusing on developing ourselves. And if we think about the lost years of Jesus, what do you think he did between the ages of 12 and 30? Well, we can imagine that he made his way to India and learned all of the techniques that the Hindus could teach him. And so if we want to believe stories about Jesus walking on the water, let's believe stories they learned how to do that. And let's also know that when he said, even the things that I do, the greater things that you can do, he's trying to tell us that we can learn how to do stuff that can transform our life. But we have to invest ourselves in the dimension of being where those capacities reside, and that is not in the effect. but in the cause, in the dimension of ourself that is here to co-create a reality that works for everyone. So I've been fortunate enough in my journey to have the benefit of great teachers. So here's a picture of Joseph Goldstein and Jack Kornfield. They're insight meditation teachers, and I sat with them as my meditation teachers for a number of years. And in the early 80s, I became a Vipassana meditation practitioner, and I spent 20 years involved in that tradition. And I've found that meditation has been integral to really developing a sensitivity to that part of ourself that is capable of becoming aware of our thoughts and aware of our beliefs. Do you know that you can become aware of your thoughts and your beliefs? And that if you pay attention to those things, you'll realize that your thoughts and beliefs are affecting how you're being with what you're having. And as you're able to see that relationship, you're able to intervene. You're able to decide how you want to be with what's happening in your life, as opposed to let what's happening in your life determine how you should feel. And so when we recognize that we have these capacities, or at least they're capacities that we can develop, then we need to be engaging into the effort that unfolds our effort and energy into those dimensions. One of the things that I'm really attracted and drawn to Dr. Joe's material is because of his story. How many of you are familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza and his story? So he's a chiropractor. He was a chiropractor in Olympia, Washington, and he experienced an accident. He had an accident. He was not into any of his stuff that we all know Dr. Joe's involved in. There was nothing like that before this event. And here's a video that describes in his own words what has happened to him. And this is why I'm attracted to this person's story and his teaching.
In order for some of us to wake up,
sound.
Wake up call. And in 1986, I got the call. I was in a triathlon in Palm Springs, California, and I was in the biking portion of the race. And I was coming up to this intersection, so as I made the turn, a four-wheel drive Bronco going about 55 miles an hour hit me from behind and catapulted me out of my bicycle. The compressive force compressed 6 vertebrae in my spine. The prognosis was I'd probably never walk again, and that I needed a radical surgery called the Harrington rod surgery. If this had been anybody else, I probably would have recommended that they had the surgery, but this was me. I decided to check out of the hospital, and I just had this one thought, and the thought was the power that made the body heals the body. So I would start off in my mind reconstructing my spine vertebrae per vertebrae, and then I'd start thinking about living in a wheelchair. So for 6 weeks, I went through this incredible dark night of the soul because I couldn't really get my mind to do what I wanted it to do. And it would take me about 3 hours closing my eyes and reconstructing every single vertebrae, and starting over again every time I lost my attention. At the end of 6 weeks, I went through the whole entire process without losing my attention. And it was like I hit a tennis ball in the sweet spot. Something clicked in that moment. I clicked. I started noticing significant changes in my body. My motor function started coming back, and my body began to change dramatically. And I was back on my feet in 10 weeks, and back training again in 12 weeks, and I just made a deal with myself. And the deal was that if I was ever able to walk again, I'd spend the rest of my life studying the mind-body connection and mind over matter. And pretty much that's what I've been doing since 1986.
So he had an accident, and he reconstructed his spine, his vertebrae, with thought alone. It took him 10 weeks. And then the next thing that he did, he spent the rest of his life documenting what he's discovered and how to use the mind in a way to really actualize all the human potential that we possess. And what greater manifestation could we look at as his own personal healing, and then him going to the going to all of his making all of his effort to really understand the relationship between the mind and the body and how we co-create our own personal reality. And when Jane and I first came here to Unity Spiritual Center in Spokane, we came knowing of Dr. Joe, and we began using his books for book studies here at the church. And then when I became sick with cancer, and so we naturally went to Dr. Joe and actually began to become his students officially to help give me the capacity to work with my illness as well. And so I have an affinity for Dr. Joe because of his capacity to be very clear in being able to understand the science as well as the effort that's needed to actually transform one's life. And when we recognize that any transformation that takes place in the context of a different mental context for how we're having our life. In other words, there's a new mind that has to come forth because the old mind that creates our current life conditions has to be upgraded, right? For there to be a different life. And so what constitutes an upgrade that enables us to have a different life experience? Well, part of that upgrade means that we have to make different choices, wouldn't you think? Makes perfect sense. If we're going to have a different life, we have to have different life experiences. And in order for us to have different life experiences, we have to have a different context for how we're having our life. Because if we're having our life as if it's against us, then we're living in a context of victimhood. And that's a very difficult thing to wiggle ourselves out of just by rearranging the decks, the chairs of the decks, the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. That's what I was trying to say. We try to rearrange the deck chairs. That's, in other words, the things in our life, as opposed to really work and deal with the source of our discomfort, and that is some place within ourself is living in the disconnect. And so our effort to kind of resolve the issue of how is it that we have aspirations for a greater good but have such difficulty extricating ourselves out of our past or out of our self-imposed limitations, you know, the difficulty that is to kind of just be over it, get over it, requires of us having to come up with a different consciousness out of which we live and unfold our life. Remember, how you react to your life is your life. And wouldn't it be valuable for us if we have some discomfort in our life to be able to see that we have the capacity to transform it? And what if there was a fast track to transforming our life that required of us first a commitment to really understand how we create our own personal reality? And then once we learn how it is that we actually are creating the life that we have, God bless you, if we can actually learn the mechanism of how our life gets to become what it is in our life, then we can be in the question, well, is there a greater life that I want to live and bring forth? Because if that question is yes, then the natural, logical question is, well, what's the science behind it? What are the steps that actually align myself with working with the whole system? I just can't work with my thoughts. I have to work with my body chemistry as well. And so as we recognize that meditation gives us a capacity to develop our capacity to decide how we're going to be with what we're having, just imagine that. What if you had the capability of deciding how you're going to be with whatever you're having as your life? Wouldn't you want to be with it in such a way as you make whatever you're having your abundance? That's possible, you know. It's just a matter of how you're going to be with whatever it is you're having. You have to decide that. Now, obviously, it's a lot more complicated than just deciding I'm going to be with this, because part of the being with something has to be in alignment with thought, feeling, with effort, with the energy of what we're trying to co-create as a part of what we're wanting to bring forth in our life. So there's more intentionality, more understanding than just knowing that we can transform our life. We have to have activated the parts of ourself that can be with whatever we're having without feeling diminished. And that's not something that you can just talk yourself into. You actually have to have a practice that enables that capacity. But with practice, you can develop a capacity to be with whatever you're having as if it's your abundance. And wouldn't we all want to have that capacity? And could we not see that if we all had that capacity, our world would be a safer, kinder place? So let's look now at a very important principle that Dr. Joe articulates exquisitely. Is that the right word for that? Exquisitely. And I'm just going to let him speak for himself. All right, it's all about when the body becomes the mind.
And so when you have an emotional reaction to someone or something, most people think that they can't control their emotional reaction. Well, it turns out if you allow that emotional reaction to last for hours or days, that's called the mood. If you keep that same emotional reaction going on for weeks or months, that's called temperament. And if you keep that same emotional reaction going on for years on end, that's called a personality trait. And so learning how to shorten your refractory period of emotional reactions is really where the work starts. So then you say to the person, why are you this way? And they'll say, I am this way because of this event that happened to me 15 or 20 years ago. And what that means from a biological standpoint is that they haven't been able to change since that event. So then the emotions from the experience tend to give the body and the brain a rush of energy. So people become addicted to the rush of those emotions, and they use the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their limitation, so at least they can feel something. So then the hardest part about change is not making the same choices you did the day before, period. And the moment you decide to make a different choice, get ready, because it's going to feel uncomfortable. So now, when it comes time to change, the person steps into that river of change and they make a different choice, and all of a sudden, they don't feel the same way. So the body says, well, you've been doing this for 35 years, you're going to just stop suffering and stop feeling guilty and stop feeling shameful, and you're not going to complain or blame or make excuses or feel sorry for yourself. Well, the body's in the unknown. So the body says, I want to return back to familiar territory. So the body starts influencing the mind, and it says, start tomorrow. You're too much like your mother. You'll never change. This isn't going to work for you. This doesn't feel right. And so if you respond to that thought as if it's true, that same thought will lead to the same choice, which will lead to the same behavior, which will create the same experience, which will produce the same emotion. In a sense, if you're sitting down and you start thinking of...
Oh, no. Okay. All right. Sorry, folks. This happened last service, too. Did it? Yeah, it did. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this thing going to here. So let's just say he lands on this, the idea that we create our own personal reality, that the body-mind is this, as we can describe it, are these circuits of our habits of being, our habits of doing, our habits of having, our habits of feeling, our habits of believing, and our habits of perceiving. This is the unconscious body-mind. And when we're living and being run by these habits, then we're sort of encapsulated in our own self-system and trying to manage our outer life by rearranging the deck chairs, so to speak. I got that one right. Okay, and so as we look at the circuit, how we're having our life is constituted by how we're being with what's happening in our world and how we're having our life experience. And so most of us have our life against us. That's our default mode. And in part, that's the way the brain is structured, as Jane talked about last Sunday, about the default mode network, about this negativity bias. And so if we understand that our unconscious conditions body-mind is going to always have our life as if it's against us, we have to override that circuitry if we're going to break through and experience something greater. The bottom circuits are proof, our rationale, our story as to how we're having our life. And as Dr. Joe talks about mood and temperament and personality that gets generated over us dwelling in these emotional states over long periods of time, we have to extricate ourselves out of that system if we're to transform our life, or if we're to step into a moment of being with what we're having that is not conditioned by our past. And so in a sense, if we think about meditation as being able to help us override this circuitry, these habits of being, then we can see that there's value in being able to develop a dimension of ourself that can operate independently of these circuits. That's the idea. At least that's the story I'm making up about why I like Dr. Joe's material, because it gives me a very concrete, specific focus on what I'm trying to do when I'm sitting in meditation. I'm trying to recondition a part of my circuitry that is living in the past. I want to bring it out of that experience of the past and begin to actualize these circuits in a different way. So let us just say, in his words, he calls it reconditioning the body to a new mind. So let's think about that for a second. The body is the circuits, as I just showed you the slide before. Think of your body. While we think of our body as a physical thing, it's also a neurological thing. It's also a psychological thing. It's also a biological, a chemical, electrical thing. And all of the things that we are make up the circuits of our self system that we have to work with if we are to transform our life. Otherwise, we just live in the past. And so the reconditioning of our body to a new mind means that we have to recondition what our body has been conditioned to feel and think when we are stimulated by an uncomfortable or difficult situation where heretofore our conditioning and program has this situation against me. And so I don't even get to think about it. I just immediately react. And so you have experiences in your life where that's the way it is. Something happens in your life and you're off. You're off your game. You're triggered. And so we have to begin to recondition this body to feel a different experience in the presence of the same trigger. If we're to have a different experience, we have to retrain our body how we're going to be when something doesn't look right out there. We have to retrain our body as to how we're going to be when we don't have all the pieces of information that satisfies what's next. We have to compensate for what's missing in the outer by giving ourselves what the inward self needs in order to awaken into a greater capacity. So the recondition of the body means that we have to retrain these circuits in order for us to have a different felt experience and be able to have autonomy independent of what's happening in our environment, what's happening outside of ourselves. And in addition to this, we have to have a new mind. We have to have a different context for how we're going to be informing our journey, our effort to move each day forward, because our response to life is our life. We have to have a different mind, a different context, a sense of purpose and passion for something that is going to pull us out of our story, out of our past. If we don't have that, we are still just trying to meditate, hoping that a blissful state will carry us away. And for 30 years, that's the kind of meditation practice I thought was it. So, if in the reconditioning of the circuits of our self system requires of us to have a different version of ourself kind of in the queue, pardon the pun, in order for us to have that, we have to have what, well, it's the next slide. I'll come back to this. We have to have a sense of being defined by a vision of the future. Can you see how important that is, to being pulled out of your own self? So our own self we cannot use ourself to pull ourselves out of it. We have to use a dimension of ourself that is not tethered to our story or our past, because those voices will be still activated if that's the case. So we have to be able to come at this effort of reconditioning our body to a new mind by, let me go back to these circuits now, this other slide. So where are we? There we go. Almost done, sweetheart. So if we think about the habits of being, doing, and having as being the circuits that define how we're having our life, then we have to create a different kind of context for how we're going to have our life. So we have to be pulled by a vision of our future. We have to have a clear sense of what our future self needs to be feeling and what our future self needs to be beholding as its reality, and project that onto what we're having as our life. And so when we enter into the process of reconditioning the circuits, this is what we have to be able to work. We have to have a sense of what is our authentic being. And being, our state of being, is alignment with thoughts and feelings. And so as we align our thoughts and feelings with a passion for what we're wanting to create for our future self, that begins to condition the other circuits, to begin to consciously decide how we're going to be with what we're having. Knowing that what we're having is for us begins to condition our life as if it's always a blessing unto ourselves. And that begins to change what's going on inside of our head when we have the cognitive dissonance of a belief that we're not good enough. We enter into the intentionality of seeing, okay, that belief came from someplace. It's not the truth of me. It's not who I am. I can switch that off by discovering what I want to be in this present moment and deciding to go all in on that. And so as we get into this idea of being pulled by a vision of our future so that we can step out of our predictable past, we have to have techniques, we have to have skills, we have to manage our attention and awareness. We cannot afford to allow a thought of limitation enter into our consciousness unknowingly, unconsciously. We have to be able to catch it and see how it has created an aspect of our life that is working against us, and so we can see the causal chain. We have to be able to connect those dots of our creative process. And we can't do that deeper work until we have a practice that helps us focus our attention not on ourself, not on our body, not on our identity, not on our stuff, not on any aspect of time or place. We have to be able to focus our attention on something that is not tethered to the outer, so that we can begin to actualize the part of our essence that is here to be unto our life a lamp or a light. And so I'll leave you with this next announcement, and that is Dr. Joe has created such a huge body of work that is basically conveyed in the context of his books and his audio CDs. And when I talk about Dr. Joe's meditation, I'm talking about listening to a recorded guided meditation. Now that's different than having a sitting practice where you're just either following your breath or doing loving kindness or having choiceless open awareness. This is actually listening, and the activity of listening is a part of the science behind transformation. The music that's played, as well as the way Dr. Joe facilitates how your attention and awareness is directed, is all a part of the science that's been created to help you exercise the muscles of your attention and awareness so that you don't believe ever again that you can have a situation and that you have to let that situation control how you're going to be. It gives you a sense of dominion over your life. And so I'm wanting to announce that we're going to be starting up beginning Monday, March 4th, every Monday until June. We're just going to try this out. We're going to start a Joe Dispenza meditation group. It's going to start at 5:30 in the morning to 7 a.m. in the chapel. And so Dr. Joe's stuff is not meant for everybody. Actually, all of this stuff is quite difficult in the sense of it requires effort. And so there's not going to be any formal instruction. It's just that you're going to come at 5:30, the doors will be locked. So get in on time, because we're going to be meditating. We're going to be listening to an audio meditation, and then we're going to, after it's complete, we'll be exiting. So there'll be different people in charge of the meeting, and each individual, such if it's myself, for instance, the first time, I will be playing a CD called Reconditioning Your Body to a New Mind. And we'll be listening to Dr. Joe as he, with a 5-minute introduction that explains why that meditation is of value. And then we'll listen to the meditation, and then when it's over, we'll leave. And the next person who comes and does that, they will have their own CD, and they will explain it. If there's a technique that needs an explanation, they'll talk about it. And then that'll happen. So it won't be necessarily a Dr. Joe content and information session learning about his materials, but rather it's going to be a support group for those who are in Dr. Joe's community or are interested in his approach to come and start generating the energetic field of Dr. Joe's presence in our transformative journey. Finally, I will also offer some suggestions for those of you, bless you, who are using the Sunday Talk as a part of your spirit group's discussion. So if you're new to meditation, sign up and attend Mary Teresa True's meditation class held each Wednesday evening in March, 6:30. So it doesn't matter what kind of practice you have. If you're new, just get into a practice, because the first part is just training your body to sit without falling asleep. So that's the first step. And practice sitting for 20 minutes in the silence twice a day if you can. If you have a meditation practice, share why you prefer it over the other methods you've experienced, just to have a conversation. It's always a nice conversation to have, to discuss your journey with respect to meditation and all the different experiences that you've had. Watch Dr. Joe's YouTube videos on reconditioning the body to a new mind. They're out there, and there's a lot of good information there. All the videos that I pull out are online on YouTube. Experience Monday morning meditations. Monday meditations on YouTube. You can Google that, search it, and it's a sample of Dr. Joe's meditation that'll give you a sense of how it is. It's not the typical guided meditation. He'll ask you to become aware of the space in space. So he'll be helping you hang your awareness on things that have nothing to do with the normal things that you think about. All right, so that concludes my talk, and sorry it's a little bit too didactic for ending. There's no easy way other than to say, meditate. God bless. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gary. Having been to several Joe Dispenza workshops, 5:30 is not early to get up and meditate. We've had 4 a.m. once, and they're not sleepy. They're ones that make you want to get up and change the world. So anyway, unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God, for we know that there is only one power, one presence, one life. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey of transformation, you are welcome here. We would especially like to welcome anyone who is here for the first time. If this is your first time here and you feel comfortable raising your hand, our ushers have a gift package for you. Is there anybody here for the first time? Welcome.
Everybody who's sitting next to a first timer point to a point.
Gary. Okay, on the outside of the packet, There is a form you can fill out to be added to our e-newsletter and our mailing list and our quarterly newsletter. If you're interested, please fill it in, drop it in a love offering bag, or take it to the bookstore. And when you take it to the bookstore, you can get a free copy of a CD of today's service. You can also take your package to the barista stand, and Amber, who did the meditation, and I will be your baristas today, so you'll get a free latte. We would also like to welcome our online viewers. Thank you for joining us this morning. Now it is time to welcome and greet each other with a handshake, a hug, a high five, namaste, whatever works for you. Before we do that, let's begin with our welcome song.
Yeah, if you can stand up, that'd be great. We'd love to have you stand, and we're going to sing together the song.
Go, Jan! We are gathering in song. Well, should I wait? Okay. Now is the time to celebrate our abundance together as we share our tithes and love offerings. I invite you to hold your offering in your hand, and if you're joining us online, you can use the Donate tab that is on the website. Let's take a moment to sink into our hearts and bring forth a feeling of gratitude and generosity. Feel the love and celebrate together in the joy of giving as we say together our love offering blessing. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. I need to think of some segues, like when you're leaving the stage and stuff. It's so awkward.
Love is but a song,
see ya.
Here's the way we'll burn. You can make the mountains ring, or make the angels cry. Though the bird is on the wing, you may not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Some may come and some may go, we will surely pass. When the one that left us here returns to us at last, we are but a moment's sunrise, fading in the gray. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. And if you hear the song I sing, you will understand. You hold the key to love and fear, all in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's there at your command. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now, right now, right now.
Trip down memory lane. We give grateful thanks for these love offerings and for all the people who have given today. and for all the ways that everyone shares their time and their talents and their treasures with this church and with this church family. Thank you. And as we are giving thanks for the gifts we are receiving at Unity Spiritual Center, we want to take time to thank all those in service to our ministry. Today we are saying an extra special thank you to our snow removal team. Would everyone who is part of the snow removal team please stand as you are able and be acknowledged? Okay, we're very grateful for your service. Our chaplains today are Tim and Tim, I guess. I guess. Okay. If you have anything that is heavy on your heart or that you would like to celebrate, you can pray with our chaplain, and he will hold it in prayer with you. This all says they on the script. They will be at the front of the sanctuary right after the service. Thank you for your service today. You can also fill in a prayer request form found in the seat pocket in front of you and put it in one of our prayer boxes. There's one right up here in the front of the sanctuary and one in the foyer. Our prayer team will pray with you for 7 days, and the prayer requests will be sent on to Silent Unity to be prayed over for 30 days. And if you know of someone who is in the hospital and has requested a visit from one of our chaplains, please fill in the visitation request form in the seat back pocket and place it in the prayer box. And I have a feeling we have some really anxious children to come in, so let's welcome them.
We are singing for this love is our lives. We are singing for this love is our lives. We are singing for this love is our lives. We are singing for this love is our lives. We are singing, oh, we are singing for this love is our lives. We are singing, singing for this love is our lives. We are singing for this joy is our lives. We are singing for this joy is our lives. We are singing for this joy is our lives. We are singing for this joy is our lives. We are singing, oh, we are singing for this joy is our lives. We are singing, oh, we are singing for this joy is our light. We are singing for this joy is our light.
Grateful for all the young people here at Unity Spiritual Center. Let's take a moment to bless our children, youth, and those in service to our youth ministry. Oh, and Danica is going to make we'll bless you first, okay? Okay. Be the love you are, sing the song you hear, share our joy of life for people far and near. Be the love we are, sing the song you hear, share our joy of life with people far and near. Now Danica has a couple of announcements to make.
Hi guys, I got the microphone this time. So my name is Danica and I'm part of our wonderful YOU group. And I just wanted to let you guys know about our 2 fundraisers that are happening right now that help send us to camp and grow on our spiritual journey. So right now we have one that has been going on for the past couple weeks, which is Kiss the Pig. Come on, Dr. Gary, let's go. But okay. And so we're going to pick an adult and a YOUer to kiss a pig. And so you vote with your dollars. And honestly, mine's kind of looking a little sad right now, and I really want to kiss a pig, so if you can help me out, that'd be really cool. Got that on my bucket list. Gotta get it right on. And I need someone to push me to do it, because I'm not going to do it on my own, you know? Yeah, thank you. And then we actually have a luncheon after this, which is a taco bar, and those proceeds also go to help us. And we actually have a gluten-free cake for you guys from Nothing But Cakes, as well as snickerdoodle cakes. So yeah. So I ask that if you are gluten-free, go for the gluten-free cake, please, because that's going to help you out the most. So thank you. We love you all, and hope to see you there.
Okay, at this time we'll invite the children to go find one of your parents or one that you prefer. Or whoever brought them. Yeah, whoever brought them. Okay. Is that your sister? She drags her off the stage. Oh, I guess this is mine. Okay. Please stand as you are able and join us together for closing.
You need to stand up here so they can see you talking.
Okay. Please stand as you are able and join together for our closing prayer, followed by the peace song. And the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. Hi. God is, and all is well.
So Google Dr. Joe and watch Reconditioning Your Body to a New Mind on YouTube.